Welcome back to Educator.com. This is the lesson on the heart. When we look at the anatomy of the heart, there are several layers that we need to consider. The pericardium is technically not the heart itself, but what you can see here is it's kind of cut away. You see it says pericardium cut away, is this connective tissue sac that in a person's thoracic cavity, if you were to open them up, you would see it almost looks like saran wrap, more opaque than that, but around the entire beating heart. And that particular connective tissue sac is not only protecting the heart and giving it some extra layered cushioning, but in between the pericardium and the surface of the heart itself is fluid, and that's providing lubrication. Think of it as like, you know, the engine of your car. Without oil in the engine, with all those moving parts that are metal on metal, it wouldn't work quite as well. There'd be too much friction. So having that fluid in between the inside of the pericardium and the surface of the heart, very important. The epicardium, remember epi means superficial when we're talking about organs on the outside. The epicardium is the actual surface of the heart, very thin in terms of the rest of the layers. When we go deeper, the myocardium, the thickest layer of the heart by far, is all that muscle, that cardiac muscle, very thick. If you've ever cut into a sheep heart or cow heart, which would be a lot bigger in some kind of dissection lab, the myocardium is very thick. And it's important. You want it to be strong. You want it to last a lifetime and do the job of making blood move. The endocardium is that inner layer, the deepest layer of the heart tissue. It's very smooth, like a slip and slide. Very smooth, made of epithelium, and you can call it endothelium because it's very deep. That's what the blood itself is slipping and sliding along. And you want it to be smooth. If the endocardium was rough, it would damage or rupture too many red blood cells. So you want it to be nice and smooth for this process to work properly. Atria and ventricles are the main chambers of the heart. You can see here, this is the right atrium. From this view, it's hard to see the left atrium. It's over here. They say auricle of the left atrium. That's just the little corner of it. If we turn the heart slightly, you would be able to see the left atrium a lot better. But those are the most superior, smaller chambers of the heart. If we go deeper, you would see the right and left ventricle, larger chambers. The way that I keep it straight in terms of right and left is you just got to keep in mind that this is from the point of view of the person whose heart this belongs to. From my point of view, if you looked at the heart, my left ventricle is on that side. Now I know it's your right, but we got to keep in mind it's from the point of view of the subject. So that's why even though in the left side of the drawing, this is called the right atrium, the right ventricle would be in here. So just keep that in mind. If we were looking from the posterior side, looking from behind, then your left would be the same left as the subject. The coronary arteries is a general term for these blood vessels that supply the heart muscle tissue itself with blood. This is an interesting thing to think about. The heart itself needs blood as well. So yes, the heart's role is to circulate blood to the entire body, to all the cells that need it. But if the heart itself does not get blood, it won't get the nourishment. It won't get the sugars and gases it needs to be able to keep providing the sugars and gases to the rest of the body. So the coronary artery is very important. You have blood flow coming out of the inside of what's called the aorta to get all of that blood inside of those muscle fibers. If you get a clog, if you get a blockage in the coronary arteries, you can get a heart attack. There are arteries and veins coming out from the top portion, the superior portion of the heart. The major one is the aorta. That is the major artery that's sending blood to the body. And then there are veins as well. We'll get to those in more detail in future slides in this lesson. And lastly, fat. All of this yellow stuff. Yep, that's lipid, that's fat. And you're going to see it on the surface of the heart. You're also going to see it around the outside of the heart, especially around the pericardium, as a cushioning. You want to cushion it in the thoracic cavity. It's a very precious organ. You don't want it to get damaged, so having some of that fat is a nice little buffer, cushion. Now the fat on the outside here, I don't want you to think this person is unhealthy. It's normal to have some fat on the outside. The fat you don't want is inside of the coronary arteries.